Hi everyone. So yesterday I did a live showing how to use the Gina K Intri-cut machine with the magnetic platform and make different kind of embossing folders. So we had like 2D embossing folder, 3D embossing folders, different brands, like there was Altenews, Sizzix, Gina K. So today, these are kind of like all the leftover pieces I had from my experimenting and things like that. And I thought I would go in today and show you different ways you can use embossing folders. So the first one is pretty easy. This is a Gina K one. It is sold out right now, but I'm sure it'll be back soon. Is just to ink blend over it. So I ink blend these leaves. This comes with a coordinating die. So I ink blended the leaves. And in this case, I just used my blending brush and I ink blended the actual embossing folder. So you can do ink blending, okay? The second way is after you do ink blending, actually run it through the embossing folder again. So here is one. This is the Crackle Paint 3D embossing folder. This is brand new over at Spellbinders. And yesterday when I showed it, here's what it looks like. I'm actually going to use this one. Okay. Now this leaf I had cut out with the machine yesterday was just a regular plain leaf like this. So what I did today was I ink blended over it and then after the fact ran it through the embossing folder. But you could do it either way. You can die cut from the embossing folder or run the die through the embossing folder when you're done. You can do it either way. Okay. So you can die cut it or you can emboss it after you die cut it, right? The other thing that you can do is put ink on the actual embossing folder. So if I wanted this to imprint a color, I would just take my ink, run my ink through there, either on the positive or the negative side. One will do your nooks and crannies, one will do the mountains. So you can do mountains or valleys with ink. And then when you run it through, it's going to put that ink on there. Now you want to use a water-based ink to do that. You don't want to use a permanent ink because it will stain your embossing folders. But it's just a good way to ink up the impression and do that. Another way you can do that if you don't want the ink getting in your folder is to either ink blend or I'm going to use a brayer here and just take that ink and run it over the top. So I've done this direct with the ink. You can do it with an ink brayer. You can do the ink brayer actually inside the folder, but you can see how it just sticks to the top and gives us some of that on there. I'll show you again on this one here. So if you don't want to put the ink in the actual folder, you can just brayer it on. You'll get a nice even layer of ink doing it that way. Another favorite method that I have with using embossing folders, obviously matte layer. I didn't bring that one up, but if you have an image and you want that to be in the background, then it would be in your background. You can use it as a matte layer. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. That's how I use most of mine. Just clean up my mess here quick. Is just doing it as a matte layer in the background and just having a little bit of it peek through. One of my favorite ways of doing it is with any kind of like paste, like lunar paste, especially on black paper. Any of those shimmery inks or shimmery pastes look really pretty on black paper. So it's a nice way of using your black paper and getting some nice backgrounds out of it. And I show this a lot. If you look at my Simon Hurley Ghosts video, I used black and then I took purple paste and just ran it over my image. So here's some lunar paste and you just take a little dab on your finger. You really got to go into the jar here, right? And you just want to spread that out and then just go over it with your finger. Again, you can be more careful about it. This needs to be watered down a little bit. Oh, now I watered it down too much. But you guys have seen me highlight these. Same thing with using the ink, but you can use your any kind of paste you have, any kind of glitter paste, shimmer paste, any paste at all to kind of highlight the top. Now this is a little bit dried out, so it didn't work as well as it normally does, but go check out my Spellbinders video with the Simon Hurley ghosts. I made glow in the dark ghosts, and I used black paper and purple, I think it was actually solar paste, because the solar paste really shows up on the black nice. So using some kind of a paste or ink or something to really highlight that, and you can use your fingers, you can use a brayer, you can use whatever you have, okay? Another way, and we'll just use the same one, is by using sprays. Now, one of the things I got rid of when I moved was all my sprays. So you can easily make your own sprays to match and coordinate whatever you have. You can just use re-inkers, like your re-inking the ink pad. I have color sparks here. These are sold at Spellbinders. I also have, brushos, anything like that. But these are powdered watercolor pigments, basically. So you just put in there how much you want to add to your water. But I stopped buying sprays because, one, I wasn't using them enough, and two, they didn't always coordinate the way I wanted them to coordinate. So you can see how easily. And then if you want to add some kind of mica to this, you can. I don't like adding the mica ahead of time because the mica can clog your nozzle. So I like doing a spray like this. And then again, I should probably put this in a paper towels here. You can spray however you want it to look. Again, and that will give us the same effect. And then if I wanted to add some kind of shimmer on it, we can do that over the top. We can brush that on, or whatever you want to do with shimmer. There's so many different ways of adding shimmer, but I don't like to add shimmer to my sprays unless I know I'm going to use it, because unfortunately it does clog a lot of the nozzles, and that's a problem I've had with a lot of my shimmer sprays. So I don't even do that anymore. I can just put shimmer on a different way. So if I wanted to add shimmer, I have Spellbinders shimmer I can add on there. There's Ink on 3 has shimmer. There's so many different companies that have shimmer. We have paints that are shimmery. There's just a lot of different ways we can add some shimmer to this. So lots of different ways you can use embossing folders. So I just wanted to share some of those ideas with you guys. Let's just do this one. I'm going to make this a little bit darker blue for this. And this one is cerulean blue. This probably is the most frequently used color I use, the blue, because I'm always doing like water scenes and stuff. And I just want to darken that up a little bit, but I'm just going to show you some of the methods here. And this is just regular paper. Obviously you want to use a little bit thicker paper if you're going to get it wet. And then this is black ink. I had one of those little bitty tiny brayers. Again, if it made it to my new house or not, that's a different question, or a different answer, I should say. Yeah, I'm not seeing it in my drawer of brayers here. So another thing to add to the list to go searching for. It's around here somewhere. I wouldn't get rid of that one. I like that one. It was cute. Okay, so I'm going to try to be gentle here with how I ink our little butterfly here. Oh, not so gentle there in the center. But, you know, there's just two of the ideas. So spraying it, inking it up, so many different things we can do with embossing folders. So I wanted to just kind of follow up with you guys and share those ideas. Another idea I mentioned yesterday was using embossing folders with different types of paper. So as I said, black paper is a beautiful one because, again, you can add lunar paste or solar paste to it, and it really makes those areas shine. Another one is foil card. If you have any kind of shimmer card, pearlescent card, or foil card, they really look beautiful when you run them through an embossing folder. So you can check those out. Just remember, when you are using thicker cardstock like that, you might have to spray the spray your paper, not your folder. Spray your paper with a little bit of water, and that will help to loosen the fibers before you run it through a very fine mister. The one that I like is the Spellbinders one because it's a very fine mist, and you can spray your water on your paper before you run it through the embossing folder, and that will usually help the embossing folder not to crease or crack when you're doing it. So hopefully these ideas help you out a little bit. Again, there's the matte layer in the background. There's die cutting it or cutting it before or after. I like to, depending on what kind of impression you make. Sometimes if you cut first and then do the impression, you're going to have a better impression. If I cut out of this, it's going through the machine and it's getting flattened again. So I lose some of that dimension if I die cut it after the fact. So if you're going to do that, die cut first and then run it through your embossing folder and you'll get a better impression. Spray over it, ink over it, lunar paste over it, put ink on the inside of your folder and then run your paper through. So that's another way. And coloring it in. Coloring it in is one I don't mention enough, but there are a lot of beautiful folders out there that have a design on them. So I think I have another one with the leaves. Okay, so like this one here, there's a lot of companies, especially Gina K, where she makes a stencil now that coordinates. And so you can now color right over them with markers, you know, ink, whatever you have, and, you know, making the design anything you want. And you can pretty much use any kind of medium on this. Trying to get some coordinating colors here. Obviously, I'm not taking my time doing this. You would take your time and do it a little nicer and neater. And you can use color pencils, markers, mini blending brushes. Again, the easiest way I found is by using a stencil, but you use whatever you have available. But you can layer the colors just like you would. You can do a single layer of color, whatever works for you. I am not being very neat at staying in the lines, but coloring it is another option as well. So a lot of different things that you can do with your embossing folders other than just running them through and coming out with an image. So many different things you can do with the embossing folders. And a lot of them now, like I said, come with stencils and come with dies. So that makes it even more versatile when using them. So hopefully I've given you some new ideas on getting your embossing folders out, learning to use your embossing folders. Different machines have different settings, and there are different companies that make embossing folders, but it's a nice way to stretch your stash when you find different ways to use them. If you have any questions, post them down below. If you learned something new, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and join our Facebook group, the Foiling Snobs Club. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.